It's in the
in the thing. That's trippy.
Obviously, they've never seen this movie.
They have. Oh my.
Obviously, they've never seen this movie.
Oh my God! See, the second I would have seen that, I would have been like, "No, I think, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna
the fact that you
go."
could walk on the beach. Yeah, no, hard pass. Hard pass. They've never seen this movie. She said it to me the next day. She goes, "Can you believe this?" Fuck all that.
No, thank you.
No.
Not after the film we just saw.
If I would have, like, maybe a couple of years ago, like, oh, that's cool. Dude, look at me. I'm making bioluminescence angels. But not now.
Bioluminescence angels. That's a weird one. Okie dokie. So we'll just go into our review of The Beach House and The Void.
Right now, The Beach House. Void.
That's pretty good. All right. And okay. And we will go ahead and we'll come back here in a 3, 2, 1. And we are back. And I don't know about you, but any film, much like The Void, that ends with our protagonist in just a dark, desolate world at their own disposal.
Very Coscarellian.
Yes.
Very Fulciist. Very, yeah.
It has always unsettled me.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was, but it just cemented this viewing as that much better. So thank you all for coming back. And oh boy.
God damn!
Oh boy!
Were those movies not gross and intense? Like both of them right out of the gate, just like, whoo!
I was questioning whether or not we should have had The Beach House ending and The Void starting, but I'm glad we did the order we did initially because I think with the Beach House, I don't know about you, I didn't find it a slow burn. I've heard people talk about that. But I think the buildup we got to the overall bombacity
to the
of The Void,
because you don't, it's just.
It washes like a wave.
In the ether of The Void.
Well, let us go ahead. Let's start talking about The Beach House. Now, like I said, initially, I saw this one through Chattanooga Film Festival, which again means I saw it in my basement via my laptop.
And I never saw it, but I heard you say, dude, you're going to like it. And I go, why? Like,
now, question, did you watch the trailer beforehand?
I did. Before I watched the movie.
Okay, that is fair.
Like right before the movie.
This was one I knew nothing about. Actually, Jill Gavar-Gazian had recommended this to me. I actually was like, which of these, because there's just a plethora of films that were available. And she's like, no, watch The Beach House. And
I should have watched. The trailer didn't ruin anything for me.
Okay, that's good.
It kind of, I knew what I was kind of getting into though, but wow, I didn't know what I was getting into. I loved it. This was a first time for me. So like watching this with you guys was wild as shit.
Well, and when I watched it initially at Chattanooga, the way they had everything set up was wonderful. It played wonderfly as a virtual festival. But for some reason, I could not make my movies go full screen where you got rid of the little bars on the bottom and top, which I know it's a first world problem. But it definitely, I had to like adjust my projector. I had to adjust my screen just so they would go off screen. So I didn't think at the time it affected my viewing of all the films. But now having watched.
It might have.
I think it may have because I forgot a lot of the things in The Beach House and things that you should not forget.
Right.
Things that are actually now burned forever into my brain.
Fuck yeah, man. After The Beach House, I went to go get myself a glass of water, right? And I poured it in. The next thing I'm looking at it like, like, damn, I need a new Brita or something. Because, like,
you got to change the filter.
Yeah, I got to make it pure. Because, that movie, god damn. But yeah, I can see where if you saw it on a smaller screen or it wasn't adjusted, because it's kind of like, it's very Mandy-esque in a lot of scenes where it's a lot of like sumptuousness.
Yes.
Just a lot of bioluminescence everywhere. Fuck all that noise. For those of you walking on beaches in Australia with bioluminescences and shit like that, you obviously never seen this movie because no, not at all. Not at all.
If you were Mayor Vaughn of that Australian beach,
the beaches would be closed. The beaches would be closed. That wouldn't be Mayor Vaughn. And the only way I would be Mayor Vaughn if I had that dope suit.
The suit, of course.
But like, yeah, no. oh, it's all natural. We'll be fine. No, because the next thing you know, you're going to spit up slugs and amoeba monsters are going to tickle your toes.
Well, from the get-go, in my second viewing of this one, immediately I thought of one thing and one thing only. As the stuff is coming up from the bottom of the ocean,
Piranhas.
actually I was thinking it was the old ones, and it was their version of Raid.
Yeah.
Because in essence,
they're terraforming the planet.
yes, they are.
They're
like
terraforming it. Like, ugh,
they're getting
too many
bad
bugs.
again.
I'm gone for 1 week, and everything's covered. Did you leave something out again? You know, and so that's what happens. No, and I love the explanation of it because I've seen it probably like, I don't know what was going on, but like I got it because they even said like, look, the plates got hot, the tectonic plates, and it opened up something, and this amoeba came out and just changed because. A lot of questions I heard for some people were having, like, were those weird pods, like the amoeba monsters that came out, or was it something else? No, I think that was just another life form infected by
Interesting, really?
I think it's a jellyfish mutated or something because when it stabbed you,
Oh, it took us. Nice timing on that. It took us about 46 minutes to get to our first squiddly diddly moment in the beach house. But when it hits that thing with the foot, oh my goodness. Okay.
well, even before this, that weird slug on the ground when she saw, that was disturbing enough.
But when she gets the look at her foot underneath,
And you just see hole and ankle and worm. No.
the squiddly.
No, it was curtains.
Now,
My feet
okay.
just went up like this. I was like,
I was watching.
I was at home. Let me put on my shoes.
I was watching at home like this. And I literally, audibly and physically did a, and I remember that moment, and it still did that to
Yeah.
me. That is the power of a good squiddly diddly.
No, I went, no, because like, to have something like that in your foot. But that's before we get to that. This movie was gorgeous. This movie was absolutely beautiful. Like the underwater scenes, and I loved like how they melted, how they talked about space, and then you think it's space, but then you just bring back a little bit.
And you realize
it's not space. It's just the things in the water, the microbes in the water, and it even goes more and more and more. And it's really like it's one of those Earth cleans house movies.
Absolutely.
And I really enjoy those, especially in these day and age. But it was just gorgeous to look at. And even before all the terribleness, when the bioluminescence happened, that was goddamn gorgeous. It looked like Cronenberg's Christmas. It's just nothing but like slime and tendrils and shit all over.
It
like,
reminded me a little of Color Out of Space that
Yes,
we
it did.
saw not too long ago.
Did. This would be a great double feature for When We Have the Void if we did with Color Out of Space or even Mandy.
Oh, yeah.
Like because of just the sumptuousness of it.
Absolutely. It's a very minimal flick for the most part. We've got 4 characters in there, but what I love, number one, and the establishment of the characters, but the dinner scene, I absolutely adored.
Yeah.
Because there were moments in there that I think kind of sum up the thesis of the film, and a couple of them ultimately is number one, the fact that they mentioned that life is just so fragile, first and foremost, and how we as human beings and how Earth, we're so fragile, but we're just so well balanced with everything right now in terms of how we can be ultimately, and we're very fortunate for that. But all it does is just to throw us off completely.
Just
is you just
one little notch. Like even in the dinner scene, they're like, your viewpoint's okay, but also be open to change.
Yes.
But then again, be careful with what you wish for, because if you're open to change too much, then bleh, so.
Well, and even the older, I loved the older couple. Number one, in fact, the guy was from
Dawn of the Dead,
the remake.
the remake, and I was like, at first I was trying to place who he was.
We're-
And I was
okay.
like, is that young Tim Roth's dad? Because like it looked like young Tim Roth's dad. I mean, it couldn't be Tim Roth's dad now because they're probably the same age. But at the same
Right.
time, it got me confused. I'm like, Dawn of the Dead. That's right. So,
And I loved the couple. I loved their dynamic. The younger kids as well. I actually dug them.
see, here's the thing about the younger couple. At first, I don't know if it was baggage from last Shudder. Shout outs to the Ranger. But like, I was like, I didn't want to not like these, but I thought I wasn't gonna like them. First, I'm like, okay, this girl's coming in and she's got resting bitch face, and she's just like, And then the other guy's like, I'm going to drop out because I'm a college kid, you know? But then when you get to his reasons and all the other stuff, these are very well thought out characters. They're not just the basic fodder that I thought they were going to be. And I wound up really going in on their journey, even with the older couple, to the point where when he walks off into the ocean, that was creepy, beautiful, and disturbing all at the same time, and I was mesmerized.
I was so focused on watching him just slowly just be taken in by everything, and then he's gone.
Yeah, because at first you think, okay, I'm gonna go for a swim, and you think everything's hunky dory until you see that he keeps walking. He's not back in swim. He's just going for a walk, and then he just disappears. That's terrifying. Do you think that he felt something was going on?
There were 3 of them that had the oysters, and we saw the actual oyster.
That was gross. Okay, I used to work. I had this discussion the other day. I used to work at Hooters, right? Nah, I was a chef. I didn't have the skin things and the leggings and the.
That would be squiddly diddly.
That would be worse. That'd be terrible. That'd be Shudder shut down. But no. So I was a cook there, and we had to make these horrible, horrible things called the Hooter shooters. Okay, what the Hooter shooters are is one of those extra long, big shot glasses. They put a raw oyster at the bottom. They put about half of the shot glass with their signature hot sauce, and then the other half the shot glass with beer. Right. And people just knock it down. It's the most vilest thing. If oysters weren't gross enough, because they're basically just snot on a shell, if they weren't gross enough, you have that. Now, I wouldn't touch oysters in the first place, but definitely not after this movie. When you see the little worm, and that's an actual thing that can happen. People get parasites by eating raw oysters all the fucking time. So that might not even been a cautionary tale. That might not even been special effects with the worm. That might have been like, oh, this one's a bad oyster. No. So I'm not going to go camping. I'm not going to go swimming. And I'm not going to go over grates. And I'm not going to eat any goddamn raw oysters.
But genius, oysters are aphrodisiacs.
So are strawberries. But that doesn't mean like that. I'll tear up a crate of strawberries before I eat one fucking oyster. And if I want an aphrodisiac, there's pills. But I can't take any more of those blue pills. They hurt when you push them in. So... Anyway, back to the beach.
My apologies, all you out there in the Screenland film family.
You're paying for this. So
truly paying for this.
No, that was it was a great dinner scene until it got really close, uncomfortably close with the oysters. Because the whole movie, the whole time, I was just skeezed out the whole time.
Well, you talked about the water. The water, when it's pouring from the faucet,
when it's in the sink and it's viscous and it looks like it's like a KY drip.
Yep.
Oh, it's so gross because it's not even KY because there's like chunks of like.
My water should not have texture.
No, it shouldn't.
It should not.
It shouldn't. It only gets worse. Then it turned into like slurry and all sorts of shit later on. This was a vile, gross movie, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful.
Well, let's talk a little bit about kind of, I guess, maybe character demise potentially. Or, you know what? Let's talk about the special effects. The moment when not only when she initially sees the thing in her foot,
but when she has to pull it out, that was wince-inducing.
That's when I went because you know what got me was, it was when the little thing, you see it, and it goes back inside real quick.
Yeah.
As if it knew it was
coming out. You know what it reminded me of?
Oh.
You know what it reminded me of? Owen and his botfly.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
The Fabio Frizzi cat hole.
That's somewhere Fabio Frizzi as his ears are getting warm.
Context. So, in case you haven't heard this story before. So I have a cat, and his name is Owen, and one time he got a botfly, and if you don't know what a botfly is, it's this little larva, it's this fly that will make a hole in your body and inject its larva, and then eventually, maybe a little bit about 2 weeks later, the larva will burst out, kind of like an alien chest burster.
Real life squiddly diddly.
Real life squiddly diddly, and that's what it reminded me of, because I had to clean this thing out of my cat. Cat hole story is different. I had a picture of it, and like somehow legendary horror producer composer Fabio Frizzi saw it and was like, oh, scusi, and like Yeah.
Turns out that's not a universal thing.
No, it's
unfortunately,
not. No,
music
it's not.
is.
But botfly holes are not.
Not so
but that's
much.
what it reminded me of. Just like,
Yeah.
like, ooh, nature, you're gross, you know? And that's what I think the message is. Don't fuck with nature. Nature's going to fuck with you back. And you ain't going to like it because it's got tentacles.
Yeah, well, this would play also pretty interestingly, I think, with The Happening, or maybe
Yeah.
The Happening done right,
Yeah.
potentially, because there's a lot of like nature gone amok or nature course correcting films, and like you said, I think now more than ever, when we have a lot of people in power denying climate change and shit like that, you can make some very powerful statements with your horror films.
It's you know what statement that this one makes too? Wear your fucking mask, because like
yeah,
you have to in this movie when amoeba fog comes out of nowhere. That was the scariest thing. When over the radio, it's not a fog. I was like, holy shit, because like we knew it, but at the same time, the more you breathe it in, the more that it changes you from the interior, and it's happening everywhere.
This also contains one of my favorite tropes with certain films where you're getting exposition from the radio.
It's calling from the house, you know.
I don't know why that does it for me. I think it's like Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead. I love that kind of stuff because I think that's what I would be doing in this scenario. And they mentioned something in the radio report. They say this is an extinction
level event. That's what got me. That it's not just over in this little in the beach house.
It's like,
but it's everywhere.
Oh,
that's terrifying. This is a scary movie because, like, I don't know if this would be. I mean, it would still be very terrifying, like 2019. But since this is 2020, we don't know what the fuck can happen next. We had murder hornets and all sorts of shit. So why not amoeba clouds? So no, the baggage we bring in all of our viewings now at this point in 2020 do come from that. But like I said, that can color it differently. I guarantee, ideally, if we come out of all of this COVID craziness next year, we'll watch The Beach House again and maybe see it differently potentially. Yeah. Oh, but it was terrible when you just see him running out of the room. Because at first of all, you're like, don't go in that fucking room, some ill shit. Because meanwhile, she's trying to crawl in the thing because this big, weird monstrosity jellyfish is impregnated a worm into her foot. So, like, she's trying to crawl on hands and knees. And I'm like, goddamn poor girl, because that beach sand is already hot. And there's, like, glass and, like, squiddly diddlies already and shit. You know. So she's already. Meanwhile, he's up taking care of that lady, and like I didn't know what the fuck was going on with that lady. Her gradual transformation was cool.
I'm kind of glad we didn't see what happened
because he comes out and he's just gross,
saturated.
So, I don't know if she's like bleh but kudos to this movie because like not only the special effects, but the fact that the transformation of the humans, because all they did was like start crab walking and just roll their eyes in their head. But the fact that they were relentless when they were crawling towards you, the fact that old lady just broke through the glass and was still
stumbled down the stairs
and still like kind of trying to like scurry after them. I was like, no, fuck all that noise. Scurry is scary. So like, no, and they're just relentlessness. So do you think that eventually the humans would turn into those amoeba monsters, or do you think the amoeba monsters were like kind of like food for the thing? Because was he being attacked or was it growing out of him?
I couldn't tell because you only get like one fleeting glimpse of a monster-esque situation, and it was all I needed actually.
All you needed, because the terror was everywhere. You didn't need all those monsters.
But I think the beauty of something like that is we don't know.
Yeah.
We won't know.
No.
By the time we know, it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the power of that. We're not supposed to know the wonders of nature. It is beautiful. When it initially stems up, like you said, it was just beautiful. It was effervescent. It was luminary.
And gross at the same time.
But what I ultimately like is that our main character, she is wanting to become an astrobiologist.
Yeah.
And she's got kind of an explanation, not an explanation, but at least a frame of reference. And that whole dinner spiel speech after the edibles, by the way,
edibles. I wrote that down. The edibles.
Is this a cautionary tale?
You guys want to do edibles? Yeah, because see, that's another thing. I'm glad that the folks didn't blame like, oh, it's all these drugs that I make feel weird. It's all the drugs that are making. I've done a lot of edibles in my day, and I've never like grew tentacles out of myself. I'm like, yeah, and crab walk towards people. I take that back, but like, not with malintent. I take that back.
Take that back. We speak truths here, my friend. Come on now.
No, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, the edibles and everything.
And the end. And the ending.
Okay.
Don't be scared.
let's talk about that.
Oh,
Let's talk about the ending because I heard a lot. Like I've seen some things. People like that ending was stupid, and like a lot ending was great, or like I didn't get the ending. I loved that ending. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was dark, it was dour, it was sad, and it was beautiful all at the same time. It was her last ounce of humanity, just telling herself because she knows she's going to die. But
is she going to die, or is she becoming? Yes.
So she doesn't want to transform regardless. So,
but she knows it might be the next thing.
So here's my question: did she A, let herself get dragged into the ocean, or B, let the ocean kind of cover her up and bury her?
I would like to think. No, I think actually she just became part of the ocean. Like just she broke down and is now in the ether, if you will.
I think that was her spirit that broke down and went on to her humanity. Basically, when it turned and saw her changing, I think that was her last shred of humanity, just going off into the eternal cosmos, into the void.
Yeah. Perfect transition. I loved the beach house.
Me too.
Hope you all did as well.
Yeah, I hope you guys really dug it. Let us know what you guys thought of it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I give it 4 out of 5 tentacles.
No, I played much better the second time. Now, a film that played again better another time is The Void. Now, The Void. You don't avoid. This is not
don't
the
avoid
Void.
The Void. Order yourself some pizza and you'll be fine.
We had the opportunity. We did see this here at the Panic Film Festival.
Woo! What a wild movie.
It was a great movie, great experience. But I've only revisited this film one time since then. So this is my only third time seeing the film. And I mention that because this viewing blew me away.
Me too. This is maybe about, with what I'm watching with you guys, this will probably be my 5th viewing. And it was so much better this time. I remember one of my beefs at the beginning when I first saw it, like that movie didn't make a lick of sense when I first saw it. I mean, I got it, but it was also like a little bit, where is everything at? This time, I 100% picked it up, got the story, picked it up what they were throwing down, and I wanted to spread the word. It was so great. This last viewing was probably my favorite viewing on the 4th, 5th time I've seen it.
Mine too. Well, I think a lot of people say this film is all flash and no substance. Like it is just a special effects showcase, which admittedly, a lot of great stuff in there.
But
it's a film fueled by grief and what someone does in that grief to try to, deal with it. And that's a universal thing. Now, that being said, it takes a different take on that ultimately.
A very odd take on it.
You're not going to be pairing this with Kramer versus Kramer potentially.
No.
But
you could pair this with Hellraiser, or you could pair
Hellraiser 2.
Hellraiser 2, yeah.
From Beyond.
Yeah, definitely From Beyond. Definitely From Beyond.
Well, you mentioned that
Dream
it was
logic in it.
Kind of Carpenter making a Hellraiser 2 film. For me, this is basically a John Carpenter mixtape.
Yes.
Like, this is someone that grew up with Carpenter, and they're like, I'm going to make myself a film, but I'm going to take elements from Assault on Precinct 13.
Absolutely. Halloween.
The Thing. Into the Mouth of Madness.
Definitely Into the Mouth of Madness.
Prince of Darkness. I mean, and I mean, not subtly.
No.
Like, just, this is what I love, and I'm going to make it my own, but with that element. And I love it. I loved it absolutely. To me, this one would pair well as a mixtape with Doomsday.
Yes.
Neil Marshall's Doomsday.
Because so much things thrown in it. It is another John Carpenter love letter.
Very much so.
But this movie is intense. This movie is so intense because it just keeps on going. And it gives you a moment to stop, and then once you think everything's okay, this weird undead tentacle will come and get you and take you down.
Only took 21 minutes to get our first official squiddly diddly moment in The Void.
Yeah.
It did not take its time on that. This one ultimately, the theme from The Beach House, like I said, was you're young enough, life is fragile, but you're young enough, you should be thankful you have the time to explore. With this one, the Canadian Malcolm McDowell, the doctor, said, you just got to keep going.
Malcolm McDowell.
But you just got to keep going.
Yeah.
And whether you're pushing through dimensions, whether you are bringing out...
Got to keep going.
You just keep going. And that's what you do with grief, in trauma. You keep going. You deal with it. Hopefully you deal with it in a constructive way.
And not try and summon the old ones.
No, not at all. This film also falls firmly into the subgenre of something that we enjoy.
Hospital horror?
Yes.
This is Assault on Ward 13.
Yes, it is.
Because the scenes the scenes where the cultists are actually in the hospital. I mean, okay, let's just even go with remove the otherworldly aspect. Let's remove all the squiddly diddly. Let's remove all the death and other elder gods. Let's just for this focus on the cult. They were scary as shit. The fact that just one shows up and then another and then 20 and then no rhyme, no reason, no motive. They just are slowly closing in on you or until they're right up about to shank your ass.
They're there
with scimitars. Like with ceremonial daggers.
It's got to be ceremonial. This is all part of a plan, but they're there to keep you from getting away.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. And like you said, when they decided to take him to the hospital that ultimately is on its way out, I'm like, oh my God, this is Assault on Precinct 13, but in a great way.
Mm-hmm.
The opening, the cold open, the two guys this is my third screening. I still couldn't figure out who they were and what they were doing.
Yeah.
Were they tracking down the doctor and all them?
Yeah,
ultimately?
they're tracking down the cult because so they got to that house.
Which apparently you do some things there.
Yeah, you do a lot of things, especially for methamphetamine. Meth. Ooh, meth. But so they got to the house tracking down the cult because the cult killed their family. The cult killed the mom. I don't know if they claimed the mom. If the mom joined the cult, which I think they did.
And maybe was transformed because they mentioned I saw him
transform people. And they just happened to stumble upon the junkie, thinking the junkie's in on it because he was having sex and partaking in it, but only because he was forced to. He was like kind of like 7. So like
that's where my mind went too.
Oh, nice. So that's when like it all was a misunderstanding on their part, but at the same time because at the end they're like, okay, I want to kill you, but not anymore because the doctor is the one. Spoilers. The doctor is the one that's actually pulling all the strings.
Which was a nice little fake out when he gets the little scalpel to the neck.
Yeah, he won. You know why? Because he knew he was going to die. He knew that guy because he knew the. He totally knew the junkie. Yep. And he goes, okay, well, I'm going to die. I need to die so I can transform. So, man, this guy was playing chess, and it wasn't until like this 4th screening did I put all the pieces together.
And they always say it's 3-dimensional chess. I think with this one, it's like
multi-dimensional chess.
It's the squeegeeing the third eye clean kind of chess there. Hospital horror, definitely. We get elements of all of those wonderful Carpenter films. Now,
I like how the nurse was talking shit. She's like, look, a degloving, right? And she was like, ugh, this is so gross. But when she hit the fan, she didn't do shit. It's like when blood started. Ah!
Oh, no. The moment that she had to look up C-section and she opened the page, I did another, because you don't have to show me anything. You just have to have, this is like the Dr. Nick Riviera coming in and just like, I don't know how to do a C-section, but I've got this guide, a dummy's guide to C-sections. I'll be good.
Okay. Oh. I need a scalpel and 10 cc's of slime. But, no.
Terrifying.
What were you saying off mic? Don't be pregnant in a squiddly diddly movie.
If you find yourself pregnant in a squiddly diddly movie, it's not going to end well.
No.
Oh. And the cast of characters within the hospital itself all ultimately end up playing a part, whether they're just fodder or, in that girl's case, carrying the child
of prophecy,
something or other that she was carrying.
But it was everything was like about carrying babies and delivering shit, because when the nurse, when like you see the reveal where you're like, and he's like, oh no, I already did it. That's what I like about this villain. He's like, when he's doing his villain the monologue, it's not like, and if you can stop me, it's like, no, it's already done. And she's like, and then the final reveal where it looks something out of H.R. Geiger's Nightmares, just this big sprawled out horribleness, and it's still pulsating and moving and all that stuff. This is wonderfully gross. It's intense, and it doesn't stop.
No, not at all. Well, what's great, all the practical effects, it was kickstarted, actually. They went to the people, and the people spoke. And most of the funds for the practical effects did come from the people from Kickstarter. And it was really funny when I was watching the film. I knew this was a pretty brief film. Again, we love the brevity. But it clocked in at like an hour and 31. And I'm like, man, I could have sworn this was like only an 80-minute film. And then in my head, I was like, you know what? I bet it's like 10 minutes worth of credits because of all the Kickstarter credits. Sure enough.
10 minutes worth of credits.
It was. I was like, So thank you, everyone that, jumped out, because let's talk about the effects and the things that we see or we barely see, because I think for the most part, because this was a little bit more of a low budget film,
some of the lighting had to hide it.
You
but
did.
It added to the atmosphere. It didn't hide. It enhanced.
well, the first thing that comes out when we get the little first squiddly diddly out of the face,
you're like, ooh, that's very Thing-like.
wasn't there some large thing, and then just the body itself was being worn as like just something other?
It basically turned. It was crawling out of it and just came out of the back and just kind of marionetted the puppet. And the guy's like, something's in here, you know. That's terrifying. First of all, being in the hospital is fucking scary already in the first place.
Oh, yeah.
Second of all, when you're handcuffed to a bed, that can be scary. Third of all, if you're handcuffed into a bed at a hospital next to some sort of pulsating tentacle creature about to rip your face off, no, not so much. And it was even terrifying because when she's coming out, she goes, this isn't my face. This isn't my face. And she was saying with such a smile as she's pulling off chunks of flesh. That's the thing I like about it. This movie was very dangly.
Oh, yeah.
Like, did you notice, like, when the people were ripping off their face, it still dangled?
It gave me elements of Jack from American Werewolf in London, and what's his bucket from Nightbreed.
Yeah.
The one that had to peel his face off with the little things on
and then
there.
reattach it later on. Yeah, this was very...
So horrible.
Very Hellraiser-y, too, because when he finally, Dr. Preterius, for lack of a better term,
Very much
when he
Preterius.
comes out of it, he kind of looks like Frank.
Yeah.
Come to Daddy. And just like
Well, and also the doctor from Hellraiser 2.
Dr. Diddley.
Yes.
No, this was the Dr. Diddley, too.
Yeah.
Because he wanted them impregnated the young girl.
This would play perfect with From Beyond and Hellraiser 2. Just you have diddling doctors going through dimensional what have you. I mean,
Yeah.
it just plays well.
Well, because it's crazy. Because you think, okay, it's a hospital under siege by cultists. And then something weird comes up. And then, like, okay, there's a monster, but they dispatch the monster. No, the monster's not dead.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he comes up, and they're hacking and hacking and hacking. Meanwhile, the lights are going off. The music is swelling. That's another thing
Good.
I liked about both these movies, The Beach House and The Void. The lack of music in The Beach House was wonderful.
It hit the mood perfect.
It just made everything scary. The minimalist score on this one was just enough to keep it terrifying, especially the weird things, the screams that the creatures did. But this creature wouldn't stop. And it keeps going on, and finally they shoot it when it starts to transform again. And then even like he's not gonna stay down for long. I've seen him get up from worse. And I'm like, what the fuck? In fact, I was watching my brother, and my brother says, wow, that escalated quickly. In fact, this whole damn movie escalated quickly. And it does.
It truly
comes
does.
out really quick out the gate. Because it starts off, both these movies start off a little bit slow. And you're like, okay, you're setting up characters. Let's see what happens. Then, bam, tentacle to the skull. So, like, yeah, no, this was a super intense scene when they're hacking away at it.
No, it totally worked. And then ultimately the ending gave me the Beyond feel, that Fulci-esque ending, like I said, when you find yourself in this other world. And the ending of The Beyond has always stayed with me. So the fact that this kind of mimics that in a way, pays homage to it, and just that nice last shot of them, they're coming together, holding their hands.
Meanwhile, this big monolithic black triangle that never is explained, but we don't need to.
I don't want that.
I don't want that. It's just the void, the abyss.
And I don't want any further exploration into the void.
I don't either.
I'm good with where we're at.
I don't want to see what's going on beyond the.
Yeah.
We didn't need to see Phantasm Homeworld. We didn't need to see Beyond's Homeworld. We don't need to see this end Homeworld. Just they're both dead and they're both together, and it's awful. But they saved humanity because so the first monster was really cool. The big hulking monster. The daughter was insanely crazy and so terrifying. But what got me, I want to talk about the daughter later, but what I thoroughly was like, this is gross, it's nightmarish, and I love every second of it, is when they go into the room of the Undying.
Oh, yeah, yes.
When he goes like, yeah, there's my experience of in the basement. They want to die, but I won't let them. In fact, you see him. The first thing you see, he's this guy. He's already got a big asshole, and he please let
me die. Oh.
And he just wants to just die.
I forgot about that whole scene.
Me too.
And so when that hit, I'm like, how did I forget this entire scene?
That there's more monsters than just these two giant monsters and squid things, and they're gross. They're like dragging body parts and all tentacly as well, and you're just like, fuck.
It gives you a little bit more than the normal squiddly diddly. Plays very much like
Zombie diddly.
Yes. There's diddly for everyone at this point.
Everybody diddles.
Final thoughts on The Void?
I thoroughly enjoy it. If you don't get it, I would suggest watching it again, because honestly, I didn't get it until like this last time, and then I'm like, it makes perfect sense now. But every time you see something new and something gross and something wonderful, and it just keeps getting harder and harder and harder, and just more intense and more intense. Like, I remember I had to stop and breathe. I was like, whoo, because it just doesn't stop.
No.
Because meanwhile, you're fighting monsters in the basement. She's trying to deliver a baby up in the next room. The other one's getting diddled by the doctor and turning into, like, it's all happening at the same time. And it's just from one scene of violence and grossness to another. It's great.
I'd like to think the entirety of this evening, the double feature, was all about violence and grossness. So thank you all for sharing that squiddly diddly double feature with this Shudder shout out. Now, our next one, again, we're not making these up as we go along, but
we're making these up as we go along.
Absolutely. But we will have another double feature here in a couple of weeks. So again, thank you all for being part of the Screenland Film family. And again, we've got indoor screenings, we've got outdoor screenings, and we've got these virtual screenings because we want to say thank you. So again, until the next time, this is Greg D.
We were going to do an FMK, but there's no winners in this squiddly diddly double feature.
Oh, thank God.
So, and I'm Genius McGee.
Yeah. Dude, I'm glad we didn't do that. That would have been not good.
Oh, no, we just didn't. Yeah.